This is the Simply Love Jesus podcast, where we explore life and faith through the lens of one question. What does it mean to simply love Jesus? My name is Micah Mays, and this is part 4 of our series on leadership. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, we would love if you did, so you can be part of the full conversation. Enjoy the episode.
So, Caleb, we've been talking a lot about how there's been all these different leaders in the world. My question is, do you think that everybody can be a leader?
At some level, every person has the potential to be a leader. Simply because every person has influence on someone else.
Yeah. Here's a follow-up question. Do you think that everyone should be a leader?
No, not everyone should be a leader.
Is there like a certain ratio between leaders and followers, you think?
No, I don't think there is. I think, one-on-one leadership, there's one leader, one follower. I don't think everyone, and so let me split that up a little bit. I think every person should strive to be an example to others, but I don't think everyone should be striving to lead a group of people to a specific in a specific direction, like an organ. Like not every person should be a pastor. Not every person should be a preacher. Not every person should be a teacher. Not every person should be a president. Not every person has the giftings to be able to effectively lead groups of people. And I don't think there's a ratio for that, because I think if you're leading one person, you're still a leader,
I'm glad you clarified that, because I was going to ask you about the leading by example. Like, we should all be trying to set examples for others.
I think everyone should strive to be a leader, especially when it's like leading by example. That's why 1 Timothy 4:12 says, don't let others look down on you because you're young. Instead, be an example to all people. You're being a leader to all people. You're being an example. You're paving the way. So everyone should strive for leadership qualities. They should strive to be an example to others. And in doing that, you are being a leader for others. But I don't believe every person practically, in the sense of you are leading groups of people and you're organizing groups of people and you are fostering them. I think there are a lot of leaders today who shouldn't be leaders, And that's one of the downsides of social media, is it's empowered people to be leaders who shouldn't be leaders. Well, one question that I wanted to talk through is, what are some ways that even secular organizations and leaders can learn from the church? Because I personally think leaders in the church are some of the greatest examples of leadership. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. So I've been working at Starbucks for a little while, and we have shift managers. And shift managers are basically people who are in charge when the boss isn't around. And there was one of the shift managers, there was something that someone was doing wrong. And they were doing fine before, but there was just kind of this side thing, this task they weren't doing right. And so in the middle of work, in the middle of everything going on, that the shift manager just goes up and corrects them. Hey, don't do this, whatever. And ever since that moment, the entire rest of the day, their work ethic completely changed. And that's what kind of spurred on this idea of this entire conversation around leadership. What inspired me for was man, these are they really need some lessons in leadership, because that conversation could have waited until later. There could have been a way better time for that to happen. And the way the shift manager carried themselves, they're very quick to get angry, quick to be stressed out, very high strung, very quick tempered, and there's a lot of things that they're very much all about. I can tell they were promoted simply because of their productivity, not because of their ability to shepherd other people,
It's kind of a hard question. Your leadership has to be built off of love. It can't be authoritative and it can't be oppressive.
Yeah. All throughout the scripture, they refer to shepherds as examples. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. And it's interesting that shepherds were not seen as it was not the most prestigious job you could have in the Jewish world. It's kind of like a pretty dirty, pretty low class job. It's a very humble job, for lack of better words. And yet the scriptures often use shepherds as an example to what it means to be a good leader. The Lord is my shepherd. And so almost makes me think, like, what about a shepherd is an example for good leadership, you know?
Yeah, for one thing, they take care of their flock whenever, like, like day and night. If a sheep gets out, then they'll go after it and, like, leave the 99 to save the one.
Yeah. You're constantly having to care for your flock. You're protecting them. You're protecting them from harm. You're having to shear their wool. You're having to lead them. If a sheep falls over, you have to pick them back up, or else, like, if a sheep falls over on its back, it literally will, like, start releasing gases and basically, like, paralyze itself and go numb and die. Like, literally, like, the sheep is helpless without its shepherd. And shepherds, they do so much for their sheep. And in the same way, that's why in the church, pastors are also looked at as shepherds. They're seen as shepherds are they're caring for their flock. We're build relationships with people. We're caring for their individual lives and doing our best to sacrifice ourselves so that they themselves can feel shepherded, for lack of better words. And I wonder how secular leaders could become so much greater at their jobs if they would just recognize that, and they would recognize that to be a good, effective business leader, you have to know what it means to shepherd your people. And the greatest examples of shepherding your people are pastors, because we're the only position in the world that is doing that. We're the only one that is like a requirement for our position to be successful, is to shepherd our people. Yeah, like Griffin said, the greatest leaders have to have love as their highest quality, their highest ethic. It must be love. And the only way that you can have your highest ethic as love, and the best way you can successfully love, is when you are resting in the example of true love, which is Jesus. You have to rest on a relationship with Jesus to have a full understanding of love. But even if you don't believe in Jesus or don't follow Jesus, you got to hear this correctly, is that the greatest example of leadership is when you are modeling yourself after a shepherd.
Yeah, I agree, because I think shepherds are such a good example of leadership in the analogy of their tools, because their tools, they have two main tools. They have a staff and a rod, and the staff is meant to lead the sheep. So if they're getting off track or something, give them a little whack in the butt or something, hook them in the neck with the thing and lead them on the right course. And it doesn't really feel good to the sheep, but it'll direct them in the right path. And then the second tool is the rod, which protects them. If there's a bear or a wolf, you use that rod to protect your sheep. I think that protecting and guiding are the most essential parts of leadership.
That's good.
Well, how does Simply Love Jesus inform us on what it means to be a leader?
Well, I think we've talked a lot about leadership and the availability and loving on the people that you are leading and caring for the people that you are leading. And when you simply love Jesus, you're going to want to, that leads you to care and love other people, because we see Jesus as example of loving on others.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to what we were talking about, how if you're a leader, your most crucial part of leadership should be that it's built on love. And so I think that to simply love Jesus through your leadership would be to love others as Jesus has loved you.
Facts.
And follow his footsteps in that path that he has laid for you.
Well, and even one thing I was thinking about, going back to what me and Micah were talking about, is the idea that, like, a leader is someone who leads regardless of whether anyone's following them or not. And that's because they don't sacrifice their convictions. They don't sacrifice their footing. They stand firm in what they are doing, regardless if anyone else is doing a good job. They don't sacrifice and don't compromise their beliefs or whatever. And I think that by simply loving Jesus, what that's going to do is lead you to a place where like you're not going to compromise anything for Jesus, because Jesus is your everything. Like he is the love of your life, and asking that question inspires you and helps you point and reflect and realize what is right and true and what is the thing to stand on and stand firm about. And it will always inspire you to focus on that and love God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so it naturally puts you in a proper place in your heart. It puts you in the proper place to reflect and to say, no, this is what is right. This is what is true. This is what I'm running after. And I run after Jesus. I keep my eyes fixated on Jesus. And in the process of that, like Jacob said, you start shepherding people because you're caring for them simply because you love them, and you just care for them because of God's love and care for you. And it keeps your eyes even on the goal, the mission and the goal of the kingdom of God, and what our purpose is here on earth. And it keeps you firm in your footing. So, well, we are so thankful that you decided to tune in to this series. We hope that you've learned you've had at least one good takeaway from this series on leadership, and we would love to know your thoughts. You can follow us on Instagram at SLJ Ministries, and we would love to know how we can pray for you. So that being said, thank you so much. Thank you again to Chill Hop Music and the various artists that we use, such as No Spirit, the Chill Hop Essentials, and the song Cruisin', and all the different songs that we use. It's provided by Chill Hop. They're great. We love you, and we love you, listener, because you're awesome. So share this podcast episode with at least one person. Consider giving us a review so that other people can also discover this podcast. And let us know how we can pray for you.